Today, we're going to talk about the census, and we're going to go over it in pretty good detail. I'm going to consider each of the traditional census as a category, and we're going to go into what makes up those categories. For example, sight is a sense category, and this is made up of multiple things. So we've got the sense of color, we've got the sense of brightness, we've got contrast, which is related to both of those things. We have depth perception, and we also have motion. And there are many more. But I'm going to go into that type of detail, into most of the senses, many of the senses. I'm not really going to go through everything, but a lot of stuff. And I'm going to also give a few examples of why I'm going to be isolating these individually. For example, if you ever had the experience of playing Guitar Hero, you would know motion, the sense of motion, visually motion. Play Guitar Hero, you have a screen that's coming towards you. And at a certain point, your eyes get acclimated to it or accustomed to it. Same thing happens if you're walking. If you're walking and you're looking at your feet for a very long time, for like 20 minutes or so, and then you look at something that is not in motion from a physics standpoint, is not moving, but you have the visual perception of motion. So you can isolate these senses. It's also because for motion, peripheral vision has a very good motion detection, but it has really bad contrast, and it's pretty bad contrast detection. It has no color perception. Anyway, this is I don't know all this stuff in exact detail, so this is going to be a pretty loose discussion. It's going to just be stuff that I've thought about personally. Very little research, but a little bit of research. I'm mostly doing this because I want to communicate effectively, communicate about the things that I'm interested in, which is mostly tea. So I have some interesting experiences with tea. For example, the motion thing. Sometimes I drink tea and I see motion, and I want to be able to describe that well. I want to know how to say these things, and I also want to know what to look for if I am having certain experiences. I want to know what type of category of thing to pay attention to so that I know what I'm actually experiencing. So there's all that, and that's I also it also helps with speculating or proposing some future ideas or future arts. Something I want to think about, like how can I use motion for art piece? Anyway, that's a bit more speculative and far out. I won't go into extreme detail for all these things. It's going to be a lot of detail, probably more detail than you've heard before, but not extreme detail. For example, with touch, like the somatic sense, tactile sensation, there's a difference between pressure, being touched, and then there's a difference between pain. And I will talk about that, but I won't go into detail about the difference between trigeminal pain and delta A pain and C fiber pain, which are all different nerve systems, and they are different senses and they feel differently. But I'm not going to go into all the detail about that. In future months, I will clarify this and be more solid on these things, and then really make a more structured and organized stream and talk about how some of the senses affect each other. I think that'll be interesting. One example of that is like balance can affect your sight. Like if your balance is thrown off, visually you start to see warping. Kind of strange, I think, but interesting. Also, if you see certain things, it changes how you hear things. Whatever. We'll get more into detail on that. I think it'd also be interesting to talk about emotions and how in the future a different type of video here about emotions and the effects of the emotions on the physical body. But that's a little bit out of my scope. I don't even really feel a lot of emotions, like a wide range of emotions. So probably not for me to do, but another time. Of course, I'm also going to be drinking tea. So there's that. And I want to get started by just kind of going over the main sense categories, the ones that we all know. Actually, I don't have a really good system. I don't have like a, I haven't made a clear system of how I'm going to delineate or name these things. You'll see what I mean here. So for like sight, I don't know if I'm going to be calling it sight or vision or seeing. I don't know. But this is one of the senses, one of the sense categories. So there's sight, there's sound, hearing, there's feeling, you know, tactile feeling. There's smell, there's taste. These are kind of the ones that most people are. I think these are what we're taught in school. I don't know what we're taught in school about the senses, or if we are. Anyway, these are kind of the main ones. There's also balance, which is another sense category. And I think time is something separate. You can sense time, and I think that's a whole separate system of sensory whatever. And then you have interoception and all the different types of interoception, meaning all the stuff that you feel inside of your body. So there's like tactile stuff that you feel in your body, the different feelings of that. But then there are also lots of different chemical feelings in the body. So you can feel if there is certain sugar amount in the blood or certain amount of carbon dioxide in the lungs. That sort of stuff. All senses. It might be some technical differences between if a sense is something that's external to the body or versus internal to the body. I don't really know. I'm just talking about stuff that a person can feel, perhaps while they're drinking tea. And what did I say? Interoception last, and then thinking, thoughts. There's gonna be. I'm writing some of this down, or some of this is already written down, but some of this is not really well written out. There's thoughts, and each of the senses has a thought analog, at least potentially. Meaning you can think hunger. Most people think in sounds, usually usually a voice, that type of sound. Some people think in like visuals, some people think in feelings, whatever. You can also think in time. You can like think of time going faster or slower or whatever. I don't really know how that works. You can think in other things. You can think in hunger. You can think in high carbon dioxide levels in your lungs. That would be unpleasant. So you have these mental analogs for each sensation. And then in addition to that, you might have more mental senses than are the ones that are exactly the exterior senses. Mental plus. I don't really know how to say that. I'm just gonna say mental. They're mental, being as the thoughts, and then there's going to be mental plus, and these are going to be the ones that are not, they have no other analog. There's no physical analog for the mental. I'm going to talk a little bit about the tea I'm drinking, but not very much. It's lovely. It's tickling the lovely sensation. It's extremely smooth in the mouth. All right, we're going to start with vision because that's why I gave an example of that. We'll just go a little bit further into the examples. So, color, we understand that color is a thing. color also itself breaks down into other senses, right? Because you have specifically, you can sense. I don't actually remember what the cones are. Are they cones or rods? I don't know. You have the three colors that you can actually sense. I think it's. Oh, I've got to turn off my notifications. I believe it is. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay, turned off. I believe that it is red, blue, and green. You've got the three colors. So you can see certain colors, red, blue, and green. And then you've got combination of these colors. And there's some other weirdness with colors. But anyway, we're just going to put that onto color. It doesn't need to be so broken down. Maybe it does. But, you know, I'm just going to say it because I just said it. May as well break it all down. These are all different senses. We've got brightness, light, dark. And then you've got the contrast. When you have contrast, what I mean by contrast is that you could only see light and dark. Like imagine a mouse, for example. I believe a mouse sees light and dark. A mouse has an optical sensor on it, and it only sees light and dark. I'm taking a moment to think about that because I don't actually know if that's true. Anyway, it has a very narrow scope. What I'm trying to say is that you could only see if you had like a single pixel view of brightness or darkness. That is like a viable way of seeing. But when you start having multiple pixels or multiple, I don't know what to call this, but I'm giving the analogy of a screen, modern visual representation. If you have multiple pixels, you can compare the two, which is where you're getting contrast from. So there's contrast. Then we have motion. Motion, we talked about it a second ago. Motion. You can see motion sometimes without things moving. You could see things moving without them feeling like they're in motion. Weird, weird example. So it's a whole separate sense. You have depth. We're familiar with depth perception. We have two eyes to make that happen with your two eyes and your depth perception. If you have one eye closed, then you don't see depth very well. You can see it if you move. Then you can see there's a little bit of motion. I'm not going to consider that a sense, and I don't know why. I just hadn't thought about it, I guess. But you know, if you see things moving, you see the things that are closer to you moving slightly, and then you see the things further away from you moving more. Anyway, that's a form of depth perception, but that's not what we're talking about here. Depth perception, one eye, you don't have any depth perception. Both eyes, you can your mind is figuring out the differences between what the two eyes are seeing. They're pretty much overlaid. They're pretty much overlaid. They're pretty much overlaid, and then the differences are kind of something happens weirdly with the differences between them. And because of that, you can tell what is closer to you and what is further away from you. You got depth perception. Why did I hesitate when I'm saying they're overlaid? They are overlaid, right? The eyes are overlaid. Yeah, my left vision and my right vision are overlaid. I wonder if they have to be. This is what I'm thinking about. I'm fairly sure that it isn't always overlaid. I'm not saying that as if I've had an experience of that type of thing. I'm saying that as a, I think that like babies have this experience of things not being overlaid. It's the same with sound. We'll get into sound a little bit later. That'll be the next thing we'll get into. But like you have 2 ears for similar reasons where you can hear location, and I'm pretty sure that uh, you can be in a certain state where you don't really hear location in the way that we generally hear location now. You just hear things doubled. And it anyway, I'm scattering myself here. Remember, this doesn't have to be a comprehensive stream here. It's not meant to be a comprehensive stream. I'm just going over some things. So we got depth. And I'm asking myself the question of, does it have to be overlaid? Do the left and right eye have to be overlaid? I don't know. We also have scale. It's another thing that is a visual phenomena. I believe is a visual phenomena. Some of these things may be a little bit less make a little less sense for some people sometimes. Whatever. Scale. Sometimes things seem big. Sometimes things seem small. That's scale. And it's usually a visual phenomena. Sometimes it's not a visual. Sometimes there are other phenomena, tactile phenomena, I think. We'll figure this out as we go. I don't know. Scale, when you consider that a visual phenomena. And then face detection. There's a whole different visual system. I figured it should be separated. I've never had the occasion of being able to notice the difference between my standard vision and face detection vision, and perhaps it's not even a difference in terms of the senses. It may not be a sensory difference, it may just be a processing difference. But again, I don't know much about, I don't know a lot about the senses. I'm just talking about stuff that I kind of know about, and I'm not getting into stuff that I don't know strongly about. And that seems like a biological neuroscience type of question that I don't have any idea about. But we do know that there is a difference between face detection and regular visual perception because people can be face blind. You've heard this before, where somebody can see a person and not recognize the face. Like they have no way of ever recognizing faces, or they have none of the standard way of recognizing faces. The processing for recognizing faces is gone. So they have to visually recognize faces through the standard way of processing things, which is apparently very difficult. I actually don't understand it. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I've never had that experience. But that's interesting to me because, of course, some people have that experience of face blindness all the time, and some people can develop face blindness, let's say temporarily, due to, whatever it is that people do. I'm saying that these things are, I'm using these sense categories to think about ways of more clearly communicating certain things. For example, the effects of certain teas that a person may be drinking. But then there's also the fact that you can have certain effects from uh, being sleep deprived. You can have certain effects from meditating a little bit too much. You can have certain effects from maybe taking psychedelics or something of that nature, or maybe just being overly excited, having a bit of adrenaline, having that type of thing. These can affect a lot of the senses, and if we get into the minute details of the visual systems, face detection is being screwy. That might be a little helpful for communicating certain things, as opposed to just saying my vision is weird. Anyway, we can recognize that some of these things can be manipulated for whatever reasons. And interesting to me is that thought analog for each. So you can probably think in phases. Don't know what that would mean, but you could probably do it. All right. That's going to be all of the vision. I'll give a summary. Color, brightness, contrast, motion, depth, scale, face. Some other things I won't be talking about. I'm not going to talk about the range of perception. So I'm not going to talk about like how bright a light can be for your eyes to detect it, or how dim a light needs to be for you to detect it. If you can only detect, I think it's 20 I think your eye has a threshold of like 20 photons or something ridiculous like that. I'm not going to go into detail about that. And that's just something I randomly know. I don't know why I know that, but that's something I randomly know or I've heard from some podcast. But I'm not going to go into all the detail for each sense because that seems unnecessary to me. I'm also not going to talk about the range, so I'm not going to talk about like color, the wavelengths of each light. Each photon needs to be between this wavelength and that wavelength. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk very little about how the senses need to be adjusted, or the whatever the sensory mechanism is adjusts. You know how if you walk into a bright room, you can't see anything, or if you walk into a dark room, it looks really dark and your eyes adjust. I'm not going to really talk about the eyes adjustment. And I might talk about how narrow or wide something is. No, I think I will. No, I think I won't. I'm not sure. I'm talking about it now, so I'm just going to talk about it now and not any other time maybe. You know how your eyes, you've got like a wide vision. It's pretty wide for most people. And then you can at some point narrow your vision. Tunnel vision, some people might call that. You can really narrow your vision quite a lot. So I guess the width of that, the fact that it's adjustable, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just talking now. Okay. Hearing. On to the next. Hearing. You can hear pitch. You can hear loudness. You can hear, I'm going to call it texture. Timbre. 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 Texture. I'm going to call it texture. And then you have location. Shorter list here. Pitch, loudness, texture, location. Pitch is it, it might be obvious what pitch is, but I'm going to go into all the detail for all of these things just in case it's not obvious for sometimes it isn't obvious. So pitch, I don't know how to describe pitch, but I'm just going to give a demonstration. My voice now is at a pretty monotone. And if I rise the pitch, it goes up here. And if I lower the pitch, it goes down there. This is pitch. This is the pitch. You can detect pitch. You could have a sensory apparatus, you could have a hearing apparatus that does not detect pitch. It just detects the pressure, like that the fact of sound pressure changes. Wow, that tea got really strong. So that was my the first second steep. I don't know how to categorize it because I skipped a rinse. I had a rinse. I drank the rinse, and I liked it. I drank the rinse, and then I drank the second steep, and this is way stronger. This is why they taught you to do the rinse first and throw it out. This is way good. Okay. Pitch. You can imagine that something can hear sound without hearing a particular pitch. We've got loudness. So you can hear something that's very soft, and you can hear something that's very loud. Texture. This is like the quality to the sound. Quality is not a good word because it just means it's the same thing. There are differences in sounds, right? You can hear if a sound is smooth versus a sound being rough. Now, I don't know how to actually demonstrate this. Okay, I can just say like if there's a tone, boo, this is a tone, boo 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 boo. That's a pitch. So I can say boo boo. Actually, I don't know if I can hear. Like, let me check. Boo. Yeah, you can hear that. Okay. Boo. That's a particular pitch with a particular texture. And then let me see if I can change that. Ooh, ooh. It's a different texture. It's a horrible demonstration, but you get the picture. I think you can speak with different tonalities. You can hear things in different tonalities. The difference between hearing something from a violin and hearing it on a piano and hearing it on a cello, hearing it in a on a synthesizer, for example. These are all different textures. Though they might have the same pitch and they may have the same loudness, you have the sensitivity, I believe, to hear texture. I'm saying I believe because I don't know who you are. But I'm sure you have the difference. I'm sure you can tell the differences between instruments. And then you have location. So location is the cool one where you can hear, you have your two ears. Two ears hear different things. Your ears are also shaped in weird ways, so you can tell if things are coming from above you or below you based on how they bounce off of the ear. And I really don't know how that works. Sound bounces onto the side of the ear and then it just vibrates in through the ear, or does it bounce and then go around? And I don't know how that works. Kind of cool though. You hear sound, you can tell if it's coming from behind you, above you, below you, in front to the left, in front to the right, and so on. It's pretty cool. So that's a different sense. Pitch, loudness, texture, location. That's hearing. We're done with hearing. There may be more. Let me know if there's more. Oh, by the way, yeah, if you think of more things to add to any of these categories, please add them. Send me a message, post a comment. I'd love to know more of these things. I'm going to be doing some more research into this. I'm going to be thinking about this for maybe a month or two, and clarifying a little bit more of those things so that I can write it out in more detail. And I just want to be more clear about what I'm experiencing personally. I don't know how well you could see me pouring here, but it was like a really stuttery pour. No good, no bueno. But I really like this tea set. Okay. Next one. We're going to get into the tactile sensations. It's not all tactile actually, so I'm not going to call it tactile. I don't know what to call this sense. The skin, the one that deals with the skin. I don't know what to call it. It's not tactile because we're not only talking about tactile things. Feeling doesn't make any sense because they're all feelings, right? Maybe feeling is the one. I don't like the somatic word. There's a word somatic. It's just too complicated. Not everybody knows what somatic means. I guess not even know everybody knows what tactile means. Maybe more people know what tactile means than somatic. Anyway, I'm just gonna call this touch. That makes it better. I'm gonna call it touch. That's not clear enough, but I'm just gonna call it touch. So I actually haven't written any of this down, so I gotta write it all down. First one I'm gonna say is the kinesthetic sense. I feel like that's not a good name for it, but anyway, that's what I've always heard it called. This is the thing where you know where your body is, like where your limbs are in relation to each other. So you can do things with your body because you know where your body is, right? I can touch my ears because I know where my ears are. I know where my head is, and I know where my hand is, and I can feel somehow through whatever the sense is, the relationship of all the body parts. It's called the kinesthetic sense, I believe. I've heard it called that. Okay, there's that. Then there's pressure. I'm going to call it pressure, but this is, you know what I mean, touch, local pressure maybe. Pressure, touch things. That's different from texture. Maybe it's not so different, but it's different. So, meaning by touch, for example, if something is touching me and something is putting pressure into a certain part of my body, I can feel the pressure, and then I can also feel the difference of that pressure in one place versus another place. That's pretty much contrast. Not going to write it down, but interesting note. Texture is more of the fine grade version of that. It's very similar, but it's more fine grained. So like if I'm touching something that's rough, I can feel that it's rough, even without like having to brush across it. If I'm touching something that's soft, I can feel that it's soft. That's a different sense, right? To me, it is. We also have, is that it? That's it for that. And we also have, okay, atmospheric pressure. Different from the localized pressure, it's just the pressure of everything around. You feel like pressure all around you. I mean, it wouldn't be like pressure. You know what I mean? It's atmospheric pressure. You can feel air around you. Feel how dense the air is. Okay. Then there's humidity. You can feel the humidity in the air. And then there's, I'm gonna say, local temperature, and then atmospheric temperature. Those are different again. So you have something that has a certain temperature, something warm or cold. Like this cup right here that I'm holding is pretty warm. It feels very nice on the hand. I'm feeling the localized temperature there, but also the room. I'm in a room right now, and it's like warm-ish, warm-ish, warm-ish. Atmospheric temperature, not direct touch temperature. Atmospheric temperature. I'm going to consider them different senses. I actually don't know if the pathways are different, but that's how we're going to call it. And then we've got pain. Totally different sense from the pressure sense, from the tactile touch pressure sense. You know, there are people who are out there who can't feel pain, but they can feel everything else pretty normally. They can feel texture and they can touch things and feel what it is, but they can't feel pain. Pain is just gone. Maybe if you've exercised before, you can exercise and you can feel maybe pain to start, but then your blood starts to flow a little bit, and then things change a bit, and then you stop feeling pain for a while. It's a different sense, but you can still touch things and you can still feel the tactile sensations of that. You can still feel pressure. You can still feel the humidity of the world. You can still feel atmospheric temperature, but you don't feel pain. And then the pain comes stronger sometimes. We're not going to get into that. That's some of the those are the senses of the touch senses. And again, we're not going to go into all the different types of pain, but I think that's covering all of the touch senses. So summarize again. Kinesthetic sense, which is like the location of all of the bodily limbs. I'm gonna have to find a different word for that because I don't like the word. It's too complicated. You've got the touch, direct touch. You've got texture. You've got atmospheric pressure. You've got humidity. Humidity, of course, is just being water in the air. You can detect if there's a lot of water in the air from your skin. You can just do that. That's a skin thing. You've got localized temperature, something touching you with a certain temperature. You've got the atmospheric temperature, and then you have pain. These are all like 9 different senses, and all the different pains and all the different other things, whatever. On to smell. This is one I have no information about. I don't know anything about smell. So I'm really not going to say much at all. You can smell fragrances. I know nothing about smell. I know you can smell things in different locations. I know you can localize things with smell. Smell has the two nostril thing. You got two nostrils. So you have the same ability to localize things with your smelling. You can smell locations. You can smell things and determine where they are in space. So there's that. But beyond that, I don't really know anything about smell. You can smell humidity. All right, I'm gonna write these down. Smell location. Okay, yeah. You can smell. I don't know what is the. You can just smell things. I don't know what do you call it? What do you call it? Olfaction. The normal thing that you would think about with smelling, you can smell them. And I don't know what the if they're I don't know what the different chemicals are being like. I'm sure there are different specific chemical reactions that are being had, and there's probably very few of them that are individual. My own speculation. I'm just assuming here, but I don't know. I really don't know. So there's humidity, and that's it. That's all. That's all I'm gonna go for because I don't know anything about smell. Location, humidity, and just a regular standard olfaction. Of course, I'm gonna have to figure out a different word for that because I don't like olfaction. And we got taste. Taste, pretty simple. You've got the standard taste of the five tastes. Five, yeah, five tastes: sweet, bitter, sour, salty, savory. The five tastes. These are all distinct individual tastes. You can lose one without losing the others. Certain parts of the tongue sometimes have more of some things and less of other things. Okay. And let me think about taste a little bit. Along with taste, you generally have. I'm just thinking about mouthfeel for now. There are other sensations that happen in the mouth. Let me think about that. So you have pain. There's a particular like I think it's a chemical pain. I don't actually know what that's about. But generally, I've talked about it before. It's the trigeminal. There's a trigeminal thing that happens. A particular trigeminal nerve can be activated by um, um, certain chemicals. Pretty sure that's just a bodily feeling. Or we're going to put that into the somatic category. But I'm thinking about it because of that's a common thing with taste. And we also have like feeling hot, hot, which is a chemical reaction, but also a bodily. Would that be a bodily sensation or a taste sensation? Questionable. Not sure. I didn't consider this for the somatic. What I mean that I didn't consider is that there are other heat sensations, which are chemical generally, like hot peppers. Can you feel a hot pepper from your hand? I don't think so, but you can on your tongue. So that's going to be a taste sensation. And that is triggering the trigeminal. So we're going to call that trigeminal, whatever. Seems similar to pain, but it's not the standard pain. It's a little different. We also got different locations for taste. So you can taste things in your mouth. You can taste things on your tongue. I think you can taste a little bit on your lips, but not very much. You can taste on your lips. You can taste in your throat. You can taste in your in the even the larynx and the pharynx, and there's a differences slightly there. You can taste all of through there. You can taste in your esophagus. You can taste in your stomach. You can taste in your intestines. You can taste all the way through the rest. But with that, you can only taste, again, you can only taste the standard, the five tastes: sweet, bitter, sour, salty, savory. And you also get like the pain effect, and you also get like the cooling and the hot, whatever those are called. I don't know what they're called. Cool. And I do think that those are different from the standard, but I don't think, actually, I don't know. Because I think you can feel mint on your skin. If you had like a mint tea or something like that and you put your finger in it, I believe it'll be extra cool. Anyway, it's not that important at the moment to fully distinguish these and categorize these properly. Anyway, you got the hot and the cooling sensations. These are different sensations that you taste. You can taste those. You can taste them throughout your body. You gotta pay a bit of attention to it, but you can taste them throughout the body. Generally, the stuff that you normally taste, like if you eat something, the sensation that you might consider taste is usually actually an olfaction sensation. You're smelling it, not tasting it. Um, I don't think that distinction is incredibly important, but it's a little bit important. It's important, for example, if you know that you can't taste something, you get sick, you can't taste something, really, you just can't smell things. That might be important to know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We're getting into a lot of detail, so I guess it's all important to know. We're just talking about stuff. I'm not sure. So we got the standard taste. We've got some certain feelings like the pain feeling. We've got cooling and the hot. We're gonna put those all together. We've got the location. You can feel these in different locations, so you can localize things only within your body. Though you can localize things within your body with taste. Okay, then we have balance. Balance. We've got the standard balance of like you tilt your ears. I guess that's just called tilt. I don't know what to call that. You got balance. I believe acceleration is also a balance thing. So I'm going to call that balance. I'm going to put acceleration under balance. Acceleration as in like you're driving a car and then somebody floors it, or you're in your new Tesla and you put it into supercharge mode or whatever. I don't know anything about cars. You drive your car really quickly, you feel like you're accelerating. There's a sense of acceleration. There's that. You also have the sense of like floating or not floating or whatever. I don't know if that's acceleration or if it's distinct, different. But like if you're like free falling, for example, there's a certain feeling of floating, which is different from if you were to be like driving forward in a particular direction at the same speed or a similar speed. You get what I'm saying here? So I don't know what to call that. Floating, gravity. I don't know. There's a difference between those though. I have a lot of dreams of being in elevators that are either falling, free falling, or moving in weird directions. And I have this sense, I have this, in my dreams, I have this sense of acceleration or falling or both very often. I don't get the sense of the tilting and the regular balance. I can pretty easily imagine, I haven't been like describing all these things about the mental analogs for these things, but I'll talk about it a little bit now. Anyway, I like to feel the sense of acceleration. I think generally when I feel it naturally, it's not localized. It's just like everywhere. Like I don't think it's in a particular location. Like I feel acceleration. I just feel acceleration. I don't feel acceleration only in my hand or only in my ear or only in my feet. That doesn't make any sense, I don't think. However, if I imagine acceleration, I can imagine acceleration pretty well, and I can imagine it in certain locations. I can like imagine it just in my fingers or I can imagine acceleration just in my head or just in my eye. It's a weird feeling that I'm imagining right now. So I think that's pretty cool with the addition of mental analogs. I can learn. I can make a differential. Like I can make a contrast. I can feel acceleration in one part of my body differently from different parts of my body, and I have this like acceleration contrast, which is cool. You can also have things like with the imagination. You can have your taste. You can imagine taste. You don't have to only imagine it in your tongue. You can imagine the sense of pineapple off your skin. Why not? Imagine pineapple up there. You can imagine a peach in your ear. Why not? Why not? You have the ability, you have the mental ability to just like project your senses anywhere, your imagined senses anywhere at least. And you might have the ability to mentally some people first of all just don't have a lot of active imagination in that sense where they can imagine the senses. Um, Usually to me the imagined senses are separate from the external, the exterior senses, I'm going to call them, like the senses that we sense, and we're sensing things in the exterior world. Allow me to say exterior. We're going to be sensing the things in the exterior world, and we have the imagined senses, and they seem to be separated to me. But then, if I want to, I can overlay them, meaning that I can hear something, and it seems like I'm hearing it in this world as opposed to just hearing it in the imagination land. So that's kind of cool. And I think you can do that to a greater or lesser degree with certain senses. I can do it pretty well with hearing. I can do it pretty well with seeing, though even when I'm doing it with hearing or seeing, I can definitely do it really well with bodily sensations. Like it seems like very easy overlay of the imagined senses and the actual senses. And then I can induce a lot of senses with the bodily sensations. That's a whole different thing. So there's that, and then generally you can still immediate for me at least I can immediately tell what things are imagined versus what things are not imagined. And then there's a pretty clear difference between things that are remembered versus things that are imagined, and I don't know why that is or what that's about. But sometimes it's possible to mix them all up, which is also fun to try to mix them up. So have an imagined sense that seems to register as a not imagined sense, essentially making a hallucination. I'm pretty bad at it. What I mean is that I don't have a strong ability to do that, but I can on occasion. Easiest to do is to do with hearing for me. With hearing, I can hear a sound. I can imagine a sound and hear it as if I'm hearing it with my ear in the natural world. It localized with room reverb and bouncing of the whatever. Like pretty cool, I think. But again, I'm weak at it. It doesn't happen very often. Doesn't happen very convincingly very often. Anyway, all right. I feel like I got a little bit off topic there, but that was balance. Did we finish balance? You got the tilts. You can tell which part, how your head is tilted. I think it's only your head anyway. You can tell how your head is tilted. You can feel the acceleration, and then you can feel this floating sensation. And in addition to that, another cool thing about balance, I think we did mention this before, that some of the senses kind of interact with each other in weird ways. So for our balance, it also screws with your visual sensation. So for example, you could be dizzy or you can have vertigo. These are similar types of things, I think. And you will have a visual effect, like a visual stimuli will happen. Or I guess it's not a visual stimuli, but a visual, you will see things weirdly. You can close your eyes and spin around in a circle, and your balance will be all screwed up because, for whatever reason, your balance is all screwed up. And then you can sit down, presumably totally still. I say close your eyes because your eyes are not like acclimating to the movement or whatever. And then you can look, and then the room will be spinning. It'll be kind of weird because like you're clearly not spinning anymore. You're sitting. Your eyes are still. Your eyes had not picked up any of the motion, but the room is spinning. What's up with that? How is balance affecting? So your balance can affect your vision. Some strange things like that can happen. You can also have things like your vision affecting your hearing. Recently, I mean, I've known of this before, but I kind of looked this up recently. There's a McGurk effect, I believe it's called McGurk, Coach McGurk, McGurk effect, where you can if you see somebody's mouth moving in a particular way as they say certain words, and if they don't if they do match, you're good generally, and they usually do match, and you're pretty good. But with our modern digital era, sometimes you can have things not match, where the voice is different from the mouth movement, and that will create a change in your hearing. I don't think it changes your sight. Anyway, I think this can be exploded into other situations where what you see might change how you hear certain things. I'm thinking of this is just another sensation that I'm imagining, and I don't know what to make of it, but I'm thinking about it now. So sometimes if you play your instrument, if you're a person who plays instruments, especially if you play instruments online or if you play digital instruments, there's this thing that can happen where if you play, let's say I play piano, if I play a keyboard and I play it on a synthesizer and there's a delay on my computer from the sound, there's a sound delay. There's a weird thing that happens. I think this can also happen if you're listening to yourself in headphones while speaking. There's a weird thing that can happen where you're playing, when you start playing at first, it feels like everything is delayed. You press the key down, and then like half a second later, it's not usually that long, but sometime later, you hear the sound, and there's like a little delay. You press the button, and then the thing happens. You press the button, and then the thing happens, and you press the button, and then the thing happens. It's very weird. Well, that's not the weird thing, but that's it's usually annoying. But after like I don't know, 30 seconds, it's pretty quick. After about 30 seconds, it seems like everything is instantaneous. It seems like it's happening in real time. It seems like when you press the button, you immediately hear it. It's a little strange. And I don't know why that happens. And I don't know I haven't paid attention to it recently to really understand what happens there. Is it like a memory thing? Do I just like do I just remember cover my memory, or do I anticipate the sound beforehand? Would it work if I change the sounds? I don't know. I'm just thinking about stuff, all right? I'm a little scattered. You should be used to it by now. Next is the perception of time. Not going to go into any more detail about that because I don't think there's more to it. Time is just a category of sensation, and I think the category is itself. I think that's the whole category. I don't know. I don't know much about the perception of time. I don't think there's any time differential. I don't think you can like perceive multiple times at the same time. Maybe you can imagine that. I can't. I don't think I haven't been able to. I guess I haven't tried very much, but I haven't been able to. I might give that a try. But time is a perception that can be screwed with, of course. If you're meditating, you probably get into the state of having no time or feeling like there's no time. That's a fun one. The same thing happens when I'm drinking tea. Sometimes things will go faster, things will go slower, time will get really strange. I like to count, like I count the amount of time I'm steeping my tea, and then sometimes I'll notice that my counting is just way too slow. Like it's just like definitely slow. And sometimes I notice that the counting is very fast. And that's just a perception of time being warped in some ways. Sometimes there are these people you can ask. You can just be in a conversation. You can say, "Hey, what time is it?" And then somebody will just like immediately know the time. They're like, "It's 8:14." They'll just know it immediately. I believe the time is now 8:14 because I just looked at the time. But some people just know it because I don't know why. They just know they have a very consistent time perception that is pretty much always available for them. But then you ask some other people and you say, "Hey, what time is it?" And they're like, "I don't know, it's 10." They're way off. They were considering time to be much faster. And other people might say it's like 7, and they're considering time to be slower, whatever. A different time perception, they can be warped, but people can perceive it. And then there is interoception. These are more of the things that you sense inside of your body. For me right now, I'm feeling hungry. So there's that. There's a sensation. I don't know what chemicals are being sensed or whatever. However that works. I don't even know if it's considered a sense based on whatever biological or neurological technical definitions of these words. I'll learn some of these things a little bit later, I'm sure. But hunger, it's a different sense. You can sense it. You can sense the amount of ghrelin in your system or something like that, which makes you feel sleepy. You can sense the amount of blood sugar. You can sense the amount of carbon dioxide in your lungs. So there's this sort of chemical interoception. You can also just sense pressure inside of your body, very similar to touch. I mean, I think it's the same as touch sensations. You also have the pain sensations inside the body. I think that's all the same, but slight distinctions maybe. And then there are all the mental analogs. I think that's it. I think that's it. I think that's it. What? Oh, wait, but there's one thing I wondered. I wondered about this yesterday, but I didn't write it down. And I didn't wonder. It was like right before I was going to bed. I was wondering it, and I didn't have enough time to wonder enough about it. So now I'm going to be wondering aloud to add to the scattered nature of this. But this is pretty fun for me. I'm enjoying getting all of this information out of myself, and then I'm going to go through and try to organize it to be a little bit more clear. And then in the future, I'll have a more clear presentation about all this stuff and my current thinking of it. And hopefully that will help me with communicating certain things a little bit more clearly. In any case, I was thinking about another thing, which is like this social feeling, the full body. So there's a feeling of fatigue that happens, right? Like for me, I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. I don't know if that's obvious. It may be obvious, it may not be obvious. I actually don't know. I'm an introvert. I like to sit alone and drink tea every day by myself, most of the time in silence. Some of the time I'm streaming. I like to sit and drink tea, and I think it's a lot of fun. It's great. It's lovely. So that's somehow related to being an introvert, but I did not explain the connection between those things. And I don't know how I so an introvert might be a person who has nervous system activation. So that's the thing that I'm sensing. Alertness. My nervous system perhaps is pretty alert or pretty activated most of the time already, like kind of highly activated and easily sensitive and easily more activated. So I'm at like a baseline high activation, and then if I get something that's very minor stimulus, like I'm drinking tea, and it's like these very subtle flavors, I enjoy them, and it raises my activation even more, and I just feel like I'm buzzing with joy. Nervous system firing on all cylinders. It's lovely. So that's a feeling, right? Something that's being perceived. I can feel the sense of being alert and having the nervous system activated. And then if the nervous system gets a little bit overly activated, if I'm going to a party and I'm hanging out with a lot of folks, and I hang out with folks at parties and I talk about ridiculously weird things, I start asking people about Mr. Beast videos, and then I start asking people if they have visual thoughts. I'm giving them whiplash. I'm asking them if they've ever done any psychedelics. I'm asking if they've ever spoken to God. And then what did they think about the KSI song? We had a discussion about our favorite Kardashians in the last party I was at. And then we started talking about Dostoevsky. I'm talking about weird stuff. I'm just going off on these different topics. And I'm doing it with every person I see. A random person I see, I'm asking a random question. Do you know how many flavors are in Dr. Pepper? I ask that question a lot. At the last party I was at, I have a friend who likes Dr. Pepper, and I asked him that. He didn't know. Then I asked somebody else. They didn't know. Then I started asking a bunch of people. We figured it out. 23. I know it may not sound like I'm an introvert because the way that I'm talking right now about how I'm talking to all these people. I go to parties a lot. I'm comfortable talking to a lot of people. I'm getting off topic here. I had fun at this party though. It was a good time. So I feel nervous system activation. Actually, at the moment, I want to say I'm feeling that sense of floating. It seems like something with my balance is doing something. I don't know what it's doing, but it's doing something. Oh, is that why I want to move somewhere? I wonder. I wonder. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just thinking about sometimes I feel like I'm floating, and then I also want to move a lot. And a lot of the movement is also it's a balance thing, right? There's a lot with along with the movement, there's a balance thing that happens because I'm moving my head. I think I'm on a trail of saying something, but I don't remember. I do remember social. All right. Full body nervous system. I don't think it's full body, but nervous system, full nervous system activation. I don't know why it's called nervous system activation because it may not be the full nervous system. Anyway, there's a part of the nervous system. There's some particular system that gets activated with I don't know what. Is it just attention? Something gets activated, especially when you're socializing. Socializing, things get activated. It's fun. Feels good. I want to dance. I want to say random questions to other people. I want to ask people who their favorite Mr. Beast member is. Nobody watched Mr. Beast. I go to this party and nobody watches Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is the most subscribed to channel ever on YouTube. None of these people watch Mr. Beast. They're looking at me crazy. And I'm like, what? You haven't seen the Lamborghini be smashed by a hydraulic press? That's not interesting to you? You didn't see when he ran over $1 billion with a tank? That didn't happen. I was exaggerating a little bit. I mean, the discussion did happen, and I did say some of those things, but Mr. Beast has not run over a tank, run over $1 billion with a tank. Sometimes I drink tea and I get a little scattered. And I'm already normally pretty scattered. Depending on the topic that I'm talking about, sometimes I'm not. But when I talk about the topics that I like to talk about, sometimes I get scattered. See, I start talking about tea, I get pretty scattered. I start talking about music, oh boy. Oh boy, let me talk about the blues for a second. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna talk about the blues right now. But oh my gosh, if I start talking about the blues, start talking about some pentatonic scales and how these are subsections of the Lydian chromatic scales and how you can affect the Lydian chromatic scales and then uh, pick out the blues scales from the Lydian chromatic scales and then and then all the substitutions you can do, I will get scattered. So anyway, there's the feeling of socializing, the I'm going to call it nervous system activation. That is a different sense. I don't know where to put it. I guess it's an interoception, but it doesn't seem to be a chemical sensation. It is something else, and you can feel fatigued at a certain point. I get fatigued. This is what I mean by introvert. This is what I mean by being an introvert. All right, we figured it out. I'm an introvert because I get fatigued. I hang out with people. I get very excited. I talk about random stuff. Mr. Beast and blues and Dostoevsky and the Kardashians. And then my nervous system is buzzing and it's fun. But then I feel drained. And that is what I mean by I'm an introvert. Thank you. Thank you. Also, the fact that my nervous system is already buzzing from the start, it's already pretty high level activation and little small things. I will be walking outside, I'll feel a little brisk wind, and I can like hear, I can see like the leaves, and they're like all flowing. Got a lot of yellow poplar, and you can see the fluttering with the poplar leaves, and it's really green on one side, but it's really like pale matte white on the other side. And sometimes you walk in a certain place and like you get this like little hint of grassiness, like this the scent, and it just wafts over, and you're like, oh my gosh. Maybe you're not like that. If you're an introvert, you might be like that, but for me, it's like, oh my gosh, this heavenly scent. Because introverts, a part of introversion, and I'm saying introvert anyway. Part of introversion is having high level, baseline level nervous system activation and very sensitive, so that small, minor uh, uh, stimuli will highly activate the nervous system. And I'm saying that's a part of being an introvert, but I'm being a little bit loose here. Let's say there are multiple qualities of a ideal introvert, the most introverted person, you know? And you can have certain of these qualities to a higher or lesser degree as an individual person. But those are the qualities that I have that are similar to ideal introvert. Okay. I don't know where to put that. Interoception. I think I'll put that into interoception. This is the nervous system activation. Probably needs a different name. Whatever. Throw it into interoception, and that's just going to be one of the social senses. How about that? It's the social sense. How cool is that? It's the social sense. I guess the face detection is also a social sense, huh? Uh, uh, Nervous system activation. Social. In parentheses. So I've talked about before balance. No. Stability. Those are very similar words, aren't they? I've talked about stability, and I wonder what that is. So, like, I sometimes visually, maybe, or bodily, also maybe, feel that the exterior world is very stable. I don't know where to categorize that. I might want to make a list of my own things for things that I don't know how to categorize, because I was thinking mostly in terms of the categories first and then filling in the categories, but then there might be other things that I don't know how to categorize. Like for example, I mentioned this before of I can look at sometimes I can see certain things. I can like look at this teacup, I'll look at the teapot, whatever I'm going to call these things. I'm going to call it teacup. I'm going to look at this teacup. That's my tea in it. And I might perceive it as being very large, even though I kind of understand that it's small. I understand in terms of there's a scale thing. There's a scale thing. I look at it and it looks like a skyscraper, but it's really just it's a small cup. So there's scale, but that sometimes that scale thing seems like a visual phenomena. I just hit my microphone. That is sometimes the scale thing, my kinesthetic sense is off. I should know exactly where the microphone is and where my body is in relation to it, but I didn't. Kinesthesis is falling apart. I know how big my microphone. I know how big my cup is. Was that what I was talking about a second? Scale. Was I talking about scale a second ago? I think I was talking about scale. Sometimes it's a visual sensation. It seems like things are visually bigger, even though they don't look visually bigger, but they just seem visually bigger. I don't know how to describe that, but then just a sense. There's just a sense of scale for certain things that I'm looking at. But then there's also the sense of scale that things I'm not looking at. Like for example, I could just feel that my room feels big. Why does my room feel so big? And why do I want to raise my hands out like that? Sometimes things are just big. The room is big and I want to throw my hands out. So there's scale, and I'm wondering if that's a purely a visual sensation or other sensation. Okay. It is 8:30 now, which is about the time I need to be gone. I want to talk a little bit more though. You might be able to tell I'm a little excited. I've been drinking some tea. Welcome to the stream. I drink tea on the stream. I am thinking about certain other things. Okay. Some things I didn't talk about. The relationship between multiple sensations. Did I talk about that? I did talk about that. Talked about it. Another thing I didn't talk about. Acclimation. Did I talk about acclimation? I talked about it very little. So things can get acclimated, and I don't know. That should be an important factor for some of the things. Like for example, you can acclimate to certain sounds. You can acclimate to motion. We talked about that. That's one of the ways that you could tell that motion's a separate sense, because you acclimate to motion, and then when you're back to looking at something that's not in motion anymore, then you can. It's weird. Okay, it's weird. You get the after effect of the acclimation of the motion. And then you have the acclimation to sense, like to smell, scent, to scent, olfaction, to smells. Can smell something. It actually happens really quickly. It's weird. Acclimation to smell. For example, if you sniff something, like if you walk in, if you smell something, I'm just thinking of different examples. I'm just getting all over the place right now. Okay, I'm just kind of, I just want to get it out, but it's not getting out. There's so many of the things I want to get out, but they're not getting out. If you walk into a room, that's not the example. If you smell something, I believe if you smell it for like 3 seconds, then it's already, it already gets, it already kills it. If you smell something for like 3 seconds or so, the smell is gone. Something like that. It's like something extreme to that. It's not gone. It's just like really, really lessened. So that if you were to sniff, do short sniffs like a dog does, sniff, 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 sniff. If you do short sniffs, the smell becomes stronger or seems stronger because it is more consistent. But if you were to sniff like a long breathe in, then you get like a really sharp smell at the beginning, and then it just kind of falls off. and then you can feel the humidity, and that feels nice. And then you got these other sensations in your nose that you feel, and that feels pleasant. But then you're not getting much of the smell sensation. So that's the part of the acclimation. You can acclimate to sound also. Like, you might be in a room. If you're in a room with a AC going or something like that, you hear it at first when it turns on, but then after a moment you don't hear it anymore, and you're just acclimated to it. You remove it. Your sensory apparatus is more concerned about motion, or things that are changing rather than motion. Things that are changing rather than the things that are staying the same. So, along with the fact that things get acclimated, you also get things like after effects. So, I believe that there's some, I don't actually know what the heck is going on with the eye. Your eyes do weird stuff. Okay, let's say your eyes are doing weird stuff. If you look at a light, I've got a ring light. I've got a ring light that I look at occasionally because I'm streaming and I'm lighting the room, and there's a light that's really bright behind the camera. Sometimes I'm looking at this light and I see it and it's bright, and I don't seem to be acclimating to it in the way that I'm about to describe. I don't seem to be acclimating to the color of it. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, when I close my eye, both of my eyes, not when I close a single eye. That's kind of bizarre. Hmm. When I close both of my eyes, I see an after image of the light. It looks like the light. It's a different color, I think. It looks like the light. And it's kind of weird because if I move my eyes around, then it kind of moves too, but in a weird way. I gotta think more about that because it's a strange sensation. I don't really know how to. I'm a little too something right now to pay attention to all the details of what's happening, but it is something to think about. Should write it down. This is after image of light. Okay, a very, very quick summary. Very quick summary. I want to do this just because I want to drink tea and I want to talk about the certain tea things that I'm doing with the teas. I might be feeling certain things, like I'm feeling hunger, and I might be feeling it in my throat like I am now, or I might be feeling it in the stomach like I do other times when I'm hungry. You know, sometimes I want to feel. Sometimes I'm noticing that there's pressure or differences, or like there's sensations that happen in the ear. I wonder if itchiness is different from regular touch sensation. I'm giving a summary here. I'm not thinking of more things. Okay. So I want to do this because I like to drink tea and I want to talk about the tea stuff that I'm drinking. I'm also, it's cool to be able to identify certain things. Like if I'm drinking tea, I want to be able to notice that sometimes the feeling of balance is weird, or sometimes I feel like I'm floating. It feels like I see motion I can tell that nothing's moving, but I get the sense of things that are in motion. I keep bumping into my microphone. That's good. That's good to know. And then maybe I can tell that my kinesthetic sense is off. I actually don't think this is a function of the kinesthetic sense is being uncoordinated or whatever. But maybe. I guess when people are drunk, right? They can't do the nose thing, right? The nose test, right? You can tell where your nose is when you're not drunk because the kinesthetic sense, I think. But then when you are drunk, your kinesthetic sense is off, so you don't have the coordination. You can't tell where you're like, I'm touching my nose. Is that right? Is that why that's happening? Actually don't know. I don't know. Never been drunk. Never been drunk? I don't know. If you've been drunk, write that down in the comments. Tell me how that goes. I don't know. I want to be able to know how to identify certain aspects of my own experience when I'm doing certain things, specifically drinking tea. There's a thing I like to do. Other art, I also want to be able to speculate for different arts, for future arts. You know, we've already got a lot of arts currently that are pretty cool and not explored. But anyway, the idea of other types of art. It'd be cool if I had music where I could deliberately affect somebody's sense of balance while playing the music. How cool would that be? It'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it be? Oh my gosh, I just hit that again. It'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Maybe. I don't know. It's a speculation. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think it'd be possible. I don't think it's possible, but it's a futuristic speculation of art. I'm giving a summary. That's right. All right. So these are all the things I want to do, and that's why I'm doing it. We got the main sense categories. We got vision. We got hearing. We've got the tactile feeling, skin thing. We've got the olfaction or smelling. We've got taste. We've got balance. We've got time. We've got interoception, and then we've got all the mental sensation analogs of that. And then we've got perhaps there are some mental sensations that you feel that are slightly different from all the other external sensations. Don't know, not really sure. And I guess you have this other sensation where you could determine which things are mental and which things are not mental. Does that count as a different sensation where you can tell which sensations are happening? It's like a a meta sensation. Oh God, I hate that. I hate that. I hate meta. I hate the word meta. Why did I say that? Oh my God. No. I don't want to I don't want to ever say that word again, okay? Stop me. Stop me. Stop the stream if I ever say meta. Jesus. But there's this sensation where you determine what the thing you can tell which category things are in. Cuz imagine if you saw something visually but you couldn't determine that it was a visual sensation, you thought it was a sound. Not like on some not like on some now I'm having a anomia. I'm forgetting a word. I'm not talking about some synesthesia type stuff, you know? That was the word I forgot. I'm talking about some like you just don't know what you see something visually, but it registers as a sound. I'm getting off track here. There's some sensation that you can tell when things are mental and when they're non-mental. Is that a sensation? I think it's a sensation. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's a sensation to distinguish which category the sensations are in. But presumably you could have a sensor that just like senses something, but it doesn't know what it's sensing. It doesn't know if it's sensing pressure or if it's sensing touch or if it's sensing humidity change or if it's sensing a sound or if it doesn't know. It's just sensing something. Anyway, I'm trying to give a summary here. You got vision, which includes color and all the different variations of color. You know, you've got the three colors, and then you've got the interactions between them. You got brightness, you got contrast, you got motion, you've got depth, you've got scale, and then you've got face detection, which is a separate thing. You've got hearing, which includes loudness, which includes pitch, which includes texture, and location, maybe more. You've got this tactile sensation, you've got the touch sensation, which includes the kinesthetic sense, knowing where your bodies are and your limbs. You got local pressure, which I'm just going to consider that's the touch sensation. I mean, you can sense the pressure change in the particular location as a different from other locations. You get touch. You've got texture. You got atmospheric pressure. You've got humidity. You've got local temperature, localized temperature. You can feel the temperature of a particular place. Atmospheric temperature. You've got pain. You've got all the variations of pain. With smell, you've got the location of the smell. You can smell locations. It's kind of weird. You can smell humidity also, and then you can also just smell things. I never determined what that word would be called. Olfaction, you've got the standard olfaction. Taste, sweet, bitter, salty, sour, savory. Your tastes. You've got the pain receptors that are specifically for taste. I think different from the other pain receptors. Cooling, hot sensations, probably also just feeling sensations different from taste, whatever. And you can do all these things have different locations because it's on your tongue, in your mouth, in your location. Balance, you got the actual balance, like the tilt of your ears and your head. Acceleration, gravity, or floating. I think that's all acceleration, whatever. Acceleration. Time, you can sense time. I don't know if there's any more to that category, but you can sense time. And then you have interoception, bodily pressures. You can just feel things in the pressure in the body. You can also feel the chemicals, certain chemicals, and you can feel social. That's the stream, guys. That's the stream. We're done here. Thanks for coming. I had fun. I got a little scattered at some point. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna go over the same topic again, and that'll be fun and interesting. But then we're gonna also at another point do other things because I also do other things. We're gonna do other things. Goodbye now.